What's up, everybody? How's it going? So today we are working on this piece that he had the idea for, which is like a dark, creepy, horror themed mermaid. And what I mainly want to talk about today is contrast of black and white and working with black and white color rather than black and gray wash. So for a piece that's super dark like this, you don't always have to just go with black, right? So we're really going to be working all those different gray tones in there to where we're not just going straight from black, faded, into lighter gray, into white. We're really going to concentrate on separating the light parts from the dark parts. And what I mean by that is mainly highlighting with grays, not white. In some areas, we're still going to do white highlights, but it's going to be very minimal. Mainly the top of the water, a few spots in her face and stuff like that. But everything underwater is going to be dark looking. Like I really want it to look like it's underwater and you're getting that view of it. So a lot of that we're going to be actually highlighting with like a mid-tone of gray or a light tone of gray. And that will really help separate the different layers. Today we're going to be using black and white color rather than a black and gray wash. So I'll kind of be going over with you my process of that a little bit more in depth. Get this stencil on real quick. Kind of designed it to where it would fit the forearm nicely. We're not really paying too much attention to direction because she is kind of facing straight forward, so it don't necessarily have to go either of one way. But the way that the tail twists and turns, I really wanted to make sure that it fit his forearm and the outside of it nicely.
Whoa, sorry to interrupt Nate's video, but I had to let you guys know we are giving away 20% off all Allegory products. Use code MODEL on their website, allegoryinc.com. Code MODEL, 20% off the ink. Giving you guys codes. Back to Nate's video.
So for this black and white color setup, we're going to keep it pretty simple. I don't want to go with all different transition of like black to dark black to gray to light gray then to like white gray. So we'll kind of keep it simple. We'll start off with a big cap, some Allegory black. The next ones I'm gonna do also the same, straight caps of black, because you can never have too much black when you're doing a dark horror theme piece. So for the next ones, I'm filling up a little bit more than halfway. Then I'm gonna skip, and then just a few drops of black in those. These tones I'm gonna keep in the middle for wash, and then we're gonna mix that down with white. Of course, we got the Allegory white too. I love both of these. Both of these inks have been great. One of the best blacks I've ever used, one of the best whites I've ever used, and then straight white. These will probably get dirtied up a little bit with some gray, but towards the end of the piece when we're doing like those final brilliant white highlights and everything, I'll put out some fresh caps of white. So we're gonna mix those up with the ink mixer just so they're not going in the needle or anything, because a lot of the times if you put black or white into a color, that's kind of the first color that your needle hits. So it's very difficult to almost bring it back to the color tone that you want after that happens. So we'll give these a good mix. And like I said, I want to keep the grays just nice and simple. We got black, we got a dark gray, we got a light or mid-tone gray, and then we got white. Now, of course, when you're working with color, I always like to do just a few drops of either witch hazel and glycerin, or if you have something else like a brand name sort of solution that keeps the tops of your inks wet. That's always the best thing when you're working with color, because it will dry up quickly and you don't want to ever damage your needles dipping into a cap that's dry on top, and then you got messed up needles all bent and everything. And then I normally just put a few caps in between just for washing. So I'm starting with the darkest area first, but I'm not starting with straight black. Kind of coming in with that dark gray that we mixed up and coming from the bottom up. I usually don't like to start with the blackest of black areas because that ends up kind of setting the tone for the whole piece. I like to work my way up to that. So what I mean, like once we start coming into the body of her and the tail coming across, that's one spot that I want to be the blackest black on this piece, or at least on the bottom half anyways. So I didn't want to start off with that and then work my way down. So I started off with doing some dark gray in the rocks, fading it out a little bit to some lighter gray. And then we're going to work our way up into the black as we go up a little bit more. So we've been plugging along here little by little. Kind of got a good chunk done down here. I'm basically doing how I normally do. Get a chunk done, move to the next chunk, move to the next chunk. So I'm trying to basically just get up to this water line right here. Working on the hand over here. I'll probably get her hip done just below that water line. And then come back down to the bottom to finish off the rest of these rocks, more of the fin, more of the background. Basically just get it where we have it here, over here, and then we can kind of take another break at that halfway point. That way I'm not messing up into the stencil, sort of going up over here too far, and then I still got a bunch down here. This stencil down here is still set, so I'll have a little bit more time to work along here before I come back down here and then get it worked up to the same point as we got it over there now. So we pretty much got past that halfway point that I was talking about with the water. Still got a few more spots that I want to go into it, like a little bit in the fins right here. We still left some blank areas for some highlights, but like I said, it's not going to be white highlights. A lot of down here underneath the water is going to be light gray or mid gray, just to differentiate some of those tones from black. But I really want it to look like this is all underwater and not as much light hitting it. So we're going to be highlighting a lot of that with the light grays, but still keeping that contrast from the black, which is what I was talking about. Like, you don't have to use just all black and make it so dark for it to actually look dark. And the thing too with opaque grays instead of gray wash is you really work it like it's a color piece. I know some people might be a little intimidated thinking about doing color, but it's basically the exact same thing. So a lot of the times you're not really building up those layers of gray wash. You're not constantly going over it, kind of feathering it in or anything. I'm doing that with the outside to fade it off. But all of this is pretty much just packing the way you would normal black. When you want an area to be super saturated with black, you're basically just doing that throughout the whole piece. But where it's light gray, you're packing light gray. Where it's dark gray, you're packing dark gray. Where it's black, you're packing the black. So we're coming up on the finishing spots of this piece. Pulled out a liner because I wanted most of the details to be in the tail, her body right here, and then pretty much her face and the water. So that's where I wanted like most of the detail to be, and a lot of the rest I kind of faded out or used a mag so it kind of has that almost blurry Gaussian blur sort of effect. So it really helps to bring out the details when you use the liner and get those sort of textures in there. Because a lot of the times you do something that's super detailed everywhere, it ends up looking super flat. So when you pick your spots that you want to look detailed and then every other spot is kind of blurry or not really like too crazy detailed in the same sort of effects and same style, it helps to make those detailed spots really stand out a lot better. So that's what I'm working on now, buttoning up some of the finer details of everything, and then I'll go back into it with a few more little spots with a liner. I guess still got to do her fins, still got to do some of the low light tones on like the rocks and the scales, the little barnacles growing on her and stuff. So we'll pretty much get everything done the way that we have it now, and then I'll come back through the piece for the fine little details and highlights and everything like that. So we just finished up for the day. Why don't you take a look, see how it came out. So we were able to leave a little bit of skin tone showing, but I never like to leave too much whenever I'm doing the opaque grays. But you see how we kept the white highlights to sort of a minimum. A little bit in the hair, face, a little bit on the upper body and the water. And then some on the spikes for the fins on her tail. Just kind of had it so, you know, it's very, very minimal with the highlights, and the rest are kind of gray highlights. So you see how it makes it so it all doesn't go from black straight to white, but it definitely stands out while still having a dark sort of underwater look with the separation between the white and the light gray.